So welcome to Unleashed Learning TV and Unleashed Learning Radio for our podcast listeners. Now, here in Sydney, we're still in shutdown, and I really hope that you and your family and your school, wherever you are doing well during this really difficult time. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about students with special needs and the greater challenges they face during this quick transition to online learning. So that's really concerning me right now. Now, I'm interviewing Scott Huffman, who's the Director of Student Support Services at Fullerton Joint Union High School in California. That's the state I'm originally from, to give us all insight into students with special needs, to help us understand who they are and how all of us can ensure that students with special needs are supported and included during this really important transition to online learning. So let's get started. Okay, so Scott, welcome so much. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Look, like I told you before, with this move to online learning, so many schools are contacting us to talk about the students who are missing out, who are falling behind. And I know you're a leader in the work that you do, making sure that everyone has access to school. So the questions I've got for you are going to help schools think about who's missing out and how to support students when we're in an online environment like we did right now. So my first question to you is, who are the students with special needs? So how are you thinking about the different communities that have special needs? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think traditionally, I think we narrow it to the ideas that come across our mind with regard to students with disabilities as designated under IDEA. You know, we think of students in our world in terms of the United States, we think of people who have learning disabilities, people who can't read, write, and those types of things. I think for us, looking at special needs goes beyond the scope of just learning difficulties. It could be mental health related. It also could be a poverty issue. We have kids that struggle with in-home situations regarding finances and things along those lines, as well as language learners. Those are all, to me and to us, an area of consideration for special needs.
So you're really thinking a broad stroke about who are the communities that are having a hard time just accessing school in general, right? And then
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's much bigger, and some of those will double dip in some of those areas as well.
So we've just quickly moved to online learning, kind of this mad dash into uncharted territory in terms of doing it so quickly. So what are the challenges that our students with special needs either are facing or might be facing when we're completely online in schools?
Yeah, I think some obvious ones that come to mind are, the basic ideas regarding the access to technology. That plays a key role in being able to implement any kind of distance learning program effectively. We know that students who have hotspots or Wi-Fi are more likely to engage in the opportunities through technology, but in some cases that won't be the case because of the setup in the home with the family. So those cases, I think institutions are going to have to carefully consider what other means of getting them curriculum and access to curriculum will be made available to them. So that's more of an obvious one. The other ones would be parental support and family support. You got 15 kids living in a house. I'm obviously exaggerating the point, but I think when you look at the family home environment, kids living in apartment complexes, living in small settings, where they're not going to be able to sit at a table or a dark room or an open room or a clean room or a dirty room or a loud room, all those things play a big role.
And so what should we be thinking about? Because there's a lot of assumptions that you're talking about here, that someone has the internet, or that someone has a quiet space, or there's parental support, or you've got the ability to use these technologies. So what are some things that schools and networks and districts either should be doing or maybe even are doing to really address students with special needs? Because what I hear is the achievement gap has the potential to really even widen during this time if we don't address this stuff. So what should we be thinking about as networks and districts and schools?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important, and kind of the way that I think of is name and need. It's not a new idea, but knowing who these kids are and what their needs are should really be focused in on. I refer to as sort of a needs assessment. As you look at developing systems to meet the needs, you need to know what the needs are in the first place. So leveraging the insights from your site teams and the teachers and individuals that work with these students and families on a day-to-day basis are really critically important to tap that resource and understand, maybe do an area of assessment and going, I know this family's going to struggle. I know that getting an awareness around those so that you can start setting up the systems to provide those Wi-Fi hotspots. Let's say, for example, you reach out to those families and say, hey, we've coordinated with our local cable company that provides internet service and Wi-Fi, and we've already organized and orchestrated that. So I think knowing the needs of kids is critical, and then staff as well. I'm going to be honest with you. That's another element of this that's really not thought about. We're so focused on kids that, and we talked a little bit before, but if you feed the teachers, they won't eat the children, eat the students. So we've got to make sure our staff feels supported in the process as well. That's part of that needs that has to be addressed.
It reminds me in the Unleashed Learning system, one of the parts of the system is who the students are matters, that key of students. So yes. You're talking about, we really have to know who the students are, and then from there determine the kinds of supports they need. And then the other key in that system is the teacher key. And you're saying we also have to be thinking about the teacher during this time and what their needs are to ensure they can be successful.
Yeah, I think we think we're in the age of technology until we realize we really are in the age of technology, and we're realizing that our teachers are really critical at being able to implement, and not just teachers, it could be site-based counselors, psychologists, other related service providers that work with students, making sure they feel supported. And I can share with you, it's a steep curve at the rate that we've done it with this recent situation. But it also is important for us to continue to reflect on and evaluate and monitor implementation. So it's not just let's do this one time and done. This needs to be a paradigm shift that I think can feed the future of equity for students in accessing education in general.
That's fantastic. So look, a lot of the teachers that I'm working with, just like overwhelmed by what just happened and what's happening. So what should we be thinking about as individual teachers when it comes to students with special needs? Because there can be some assumptions about why they're not showing up or not accessing the materials. So if I'm an individual teacher, what are some ways that I can be supporting students with special needs during this completely online and remote learning?
Yeah, I think being able to be aware of those, what I refer to as called precipitating factors. There are things that go on in the background of kids' lives. Many times school's been a place of sanctuary. So kids arrive at school with a certain level of connectivity and interaction with our adult staff that they feel like, okay, I'm in a safe place, this is good. We all know that stress creates a lot of problems in the body. It creates a lot of problems with the mind. So I think as a teacher, recognizing that students' performance right now will likely be impaired as a result of the shift. I mean, adult performance is being impaired right now. Yeah, right. People just can't go do the things they've always been doing. So as adults, I think we can moderate that a little bit better than maybe some young adults have the capacity. We know that the prefrontal cortex and some of the amygdalas right now are getting a workout in some of our kids' brains. So I think as a teacher, we want to just be mindful that performance right now on test scores and testing and education is, it means a lot. It's not just about how you performed on a test. We might be educating kids on how to manage stress right now. We might be managing a conversation surrounding depression or anxiety or some other issues that they're dealing with in the home that are coming to light because they're not able to get that place of sanctuary. So I think as educators, we have to broaden our definition of educating and learning and growing kids. We want to grow them holistically. And not simply by they're not sitting there with some seat time and I'm getting X amount of minutes out of them.
It reminds me too that probably some of the things we could be doing is normalizing for people what might be happening so that we create a common language or common, I shouldn't say common language, but just kind of bring it out of the closet that, fear and nervousness, all the stuff
very normal.
Is normal right now. And that probably helps alleviate that as well. And that's why we're going to know who the students are.
Well, and we've taken it so far in our district to focus on our adult staff, kind of focusing on social emotional learning and really pushing out an idea that being able to manage oneself as an educator allows us to be able to then support the needs of our students in our classrooms. So we've been doing check-in groups with our teacher teams, just a place for them to safely share thoughts, ideas. Hey, we check in at the beginning of the week. It's an open forum. Any teacher across the district can plug in and we do a checkout at the end of the week. How are you doing? How's your self-care? You had a time, what fun thing happened for you this week? What way did you manage stress in a healthy way? So I think training them and teaching and supporting teachers is an important part for administrators and leaders to be able to orchestrate that kind of support that they need.
It's ironic because, I shouldn't say ironic, but on Tuesday, our next Unleashed Learning TV episode comes out, and it's from a leader here in Australia who is a leader in well-being. And so we'll make a link to that as well for for people, because that's a great reminder that as educators, we want to take care of everybody, but we've got to be taking care of ourselves right now so we can be in a way to participate with our students.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to throw one last question, then we're just about out of time. But can you just give us something that you see that's going on in all the schools that you work with that supports special needs that really are giving you hope right now? Is there anything you see that's happening like this is cool, like this, I'm proud of this?
I do. I think one of the things that's been a really uniquely leveraged asset in the midst of this is our instructional aides in their roles as educators, co-educators or paraprofessionals. Teachers partnering with collaborative partners in the classroom like their paraeducators to see the level of connection that they've been able to maintain and sustain with our parents and families has been phenomenal. Kids feel warm and welcome. They know the instructional aides play such a critical role in their relationships in their life, and family members now. I heard a comment the other day. We were talking with my more moderate to severely disabled students and families. They're saying they've had more contact time with parents and families, seeking support, advice, and direction in light of COVID-19 than they would have necessarily had this not occurred. And that's been really beautiful to see. And hopefully we'll continue with new pathways of communication and connection with them.
It just reminds me of personally how much pride I have in this profession right now to see what people are doing and how they're stepping up and doing things in different kinds of ways. So I really appreciate your time, Scott. I know a lot of people have been asking us and I'm learning about ways to support students with special needs. So I'm hoping that this really helps people think about who the students are, who we are as educators, and then ways to create equity at a time of maybe disparity of access for people.
Well, and if I can end with one other thought too about partnership. One of the things that I think we struggle with understanding in education, everybody matters. And what I mean by everybody, I mean parents and families right now. Yes, we've gone to school to become educators. Yes, we have a certain pedagogical understanding of instruction and delivery of instruction. But these are the kids' families. These are their moms and dads or aunties or grandmas or people that have loved on them. They know how to teach them. You know, we need to build confidence in our parent partnerships. We need our families to feel like there's no magic. It's love, it's care, it's connection. And I think our families need to know that they are a critical partnership in this process. And we need to build value in those relationships with our parents and families. Some feel like, oh, I'm a banker. I don't do that. I do this. Wait a minute, this is your child. You've reared this child. You've supported this child. You're an educator. You know how to teach your child. So I just want to mention that partnership, that balance, to remember that is critically important in terms of solutions moving forward.
I love that. What a great way to end it on a positive note and all the strengths that are already in front of us that we should be using. Scott, thank you so much for the work you do. I have so much respect for what you're doing in your district and your network and with your family. So thank you so much.
You betcha. It's a pleasure meeting. I'm glad we had a chance to talk. You take good care.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Take care.
So we've got a question for you. We want to know, what are you and your school doing to make sure that students with special needs are not left behind during this time of online learning? So as you know, some of our best conversations take place after the episode. So jump over there and share your wisdom and inspire teachers and schools all around the world. As always, thank you for the important work you do for the world. We are cheering you on, and we'll see you next time.